We are mucus-free. We are mucus-free. We are mucus-free. We are mucus-free.
What's going on, brothers and sisters? This is Professor Spira, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Mucus-free Life Podcast. And of course, you're listening to me and Brother Air and other folks on the Arid Day Celebration Band, which was last July. Had a grand old time with a lot of dancing, a little bit of singing, a little bit of just a lot of jamming. And I like this piece. We are mucus free. So I thought I'd start this episode with that little tune. So what's going on? What's up, everybody? I know it's been a while. Been a while since I really made a lot of videos, and a couple months ago, me and Brother Air went live with one of our famous Unleashed sessions, where we look at the state of the mucus in society, and been really busy since then. Been trying to focus on my physiology as always. Got into some different periods. I experiment with a lot of different things within the context of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. I did this kind of long stint of mucusless raw type of thing, and then I shifted into some other stuff, and so that's part of my practice. And one of the reasons that I don't always talk about what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis is and it would confuse some people that don't understand kind of a long-term practice, because people I get asked that all the time, and people have said, well, why don't you make a video that's what I eat in a day and all that kind of stuff. And eventually I'm gonna do something like that, but what I'm gonna do, instead of just say, okay, what I eat in a day, I'm going to give like 4 or 5 different examples of what I would eat in a day over the years in different circumstances. What I ate in a day during my first year of practicing the Mucusless diet is totally different. What I ate in a day in my second year is very different from what I ate in my 5th year, my 10th year, my 15th year. It was all different. So I think giving some examples of what different kinds of days look like on the Mucusless Diet Healing System would be helpful, I think. I'm hoping. Because oftentimes when people ask that, it'll be a day where I am eating something that is not a whole lot of food. And I don't like to put that out there in a way where people think that all we do is eat nothing but fruit, or that's all we're promoting, or that we promote eating nothing but being mucusless all the time, or mucus free. Yes, we talk about mucus free, we talk about being mucusless, but we always preface that with transitioning toward a mucus free lifestyle. And once you get to be where you're primarily or mostly mucus free, there's always ways to take it to other levels, taking it to the next level. That's what pioneers such as Brother Air is doing, and others that are on this path that are interested in finding out what is the potential of the human body, of the human spirit, of the human mind, when you go down a path of being mucus free, going down a path of learning how to connect with humanity, with true humanity, colored man, being able to connect with where we came from, and understanding that we've gotten so far away. We've gotten so far off of the path of what a human is supposed to be. And if you don't believe me, we're going to talk about some things a little bit later on that will demonstrate this better than just complaining about it and saying, oh, it's bad out there. And we know that. We know it's bad out there. But what do we do about it? And that's where everybody has different answer for that. And say, well, we got to march. We got to uprise, some people say. Other people, well, then you got the people that say, oh, everything's fine with us. We've evolved into this. This is how we are. We are cold-blooded animals that do what we do. We murder and rape, and that's all normal. That's what some people say. We've evolved into that. Of course, what we say is we've de-evolved into that. We are degenerate in the sense that we're not supposed to be existing as we do. And when people think that this is normal, or that we're the crown of creation, and that the great technological advances and all of these things that people say that pump up humanity, that we're just so advanced these days, that's what gets probably on my nerves the most. That level of ignorance, that level of blindness is disheartening, and it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up, because this world can be a much better place. It's not going to be perfect overnight. The goals and the visions, we can talk about vision of having a calm and society, people that are, beyond money, beyond these political and economic systems that we have been born into and inherited. We can get into that and talk about that, but we cannot have vision without a plan. And any plan must start with transition and transition diet, because we cannot be a rational human species when we are divorced from our nature, from what we're supposed to be doing. The craziness that we see out here is an expression of what we are doing that is totally against nature's laws, natural laws. Yet we have created so many scapegoats and so many different reasons why things are the way they are when we're focused on the bad things. It's like, well, it's genetic. It's the sun is getting us, or it's even the pollution. Now, of course, the pollution is coming out of a consciousness, a pus and mucus based consciousness. Again, divorcing the divorcing of the human from nature, and the natural diet is created all of this chaos that we have in this world. And if you are someone that has been in a position, see, some people would say lucky enough. I would say lucky enough to be in a position where you can recognize the chaos, but it might not be threatening in a way where you have to, where people are throwing bombs at your front door or your back door. You're lucky enough to have a door with a roof and ceiling. So there's that level of understanding. But what are you going to do with that if you are in a situation where you are in a part of the world where you do have a little bit of comfort, and you're able to have things like beds and couches and whatever, and refrigerators and all? Not everybody has that. Some people, they totally divorced from understanding different, all the things around the world, and just the chaos and the things that's going on, because you get comfortable in your bubble. But if you are in a situation like that, I implore you to use that to your advantage to transition and take things as far as you can physiologically, to transform yourself while you're in that type of environment, because it is hard to do. If you're in a situation where you are worried about people bombing your home or shooting you when you walk out the door, it's not impossible to practice Mucusless diet in that kind of environment, but it's very difficult. And so when I talk about, gratitude and being happy, I'm happy that I am in a space where now that I have the consciousness of the transition diet, Mucusless diet, I am able to use the comforts, use the technology in a transitional manner to try and eventually move back to a natural way of being for me and for others that are interested in that type of path. Because I'm definitely not against technology. I mean, I love certain aspects of technology as an artist, as a content producer, as an educator. So things like this video and audio and making music and different things I do with technology. I don't think there's nothing wrong with technology in the sense of, what do you do with it? Are you using it as a tool to take things to a different level, or are you using it to hurt people? Or are you using it to hurt yourself? How are you using this tool or these various tools called technology? Basically, this podcast format is the best way for me to connect with more people, I think. The format that I did before this, the Professor Spira office hour format, people that were into the Mucusless diet really liked it. And I got a lot of great feedback from folks that were already into the diet, but a lot of people that weren't already into the lifestyle really wasn't getting into the office hour much, because we were getting into some pretty nitty-gritty practice details of the Mucusless Diet Healing System and that kind of thing. It was basically a Q&A session, but I got really in depth using PowerPoint presentations and studying the history of things and trying to really put together a solid answer for folks. But it just didn't have the kind of traction that I really wanted for the amount of work. I was putting in a lot of work to make those episodes happen. And so with this format, is going to be a lot more casual, a lot more conversational, just kind of like hanging out with me, just talking. It's just going to be talking, having interviews with different folks. Next week, we are going to have Brother Air on the program. It'll be our first interview, our first guest. And so we'll have Brother Air on the podcast. And I might not have people every week, but I'm going to have some different people, movers and shakers in the mucus-free community, and again, just have conversations. And so I want this to be fun. We're going to tackle some controversial topics and talk about some things that are challenging, but I really want this to be fun and folks to be able to plug into this. And the more that you share this, and that's the thing, I will keep doing it if people continue to view it and share it and all that kind of stuff, because we really got to get this message out there. The world, the humans in this world need to get it together. We need to wake up, get this consciousness, and start on the transition. That's what's missing to this day all around the plant-based community and the naturopathy and the homeopathy and obviously the medical. Everybody, touch on diet to different extents or talk about different types of fasting or different remedies and herbs and all this kind of stuff. But the art of transition is just the missing link to all of that. It's just totally lost. And we're the only ones that I know of that truly and seriously examine the practice and the art of transition dieting and transitional lifestyle to aspire to something that is more than just whatever we think this is, or whatever, if we think that this world and this, that everything is okay, and if you're comfortable and you have your little couch and your bed and all that kind of stuff, that everything is cool. But no, we got work to do. We got work to do to get this society together, to get ourselves together. So for 3 years, Bear did a radio show called Immortality Pipeline, and there were some things that we did during that show that I think will work really well for the podcast. Eventually I might open up some phone lines and have some callers call in and do that kind of thing as I figure out the best way to do that. And just really plug in. I mean, I want this to be a place where folks that are interested in the mucus-free path can plug in and we can kind of just feel how we feel on this path, and that is the whole range of emotions, how we deal with it, because this is character building. How do you build character? Mucusless Diet Healing System builds character, makes you humble. There's a lot of these folks out here I see in the raw foods community and the vegan community. There's not a lot of humbleness. There's a lot of kind of ego, and I'm the best and do this, and you got to be 100% this and all that kind of stuff. You don't see us talk like that, man. We have an understanding that Mother Nature's wrath can be devastating, and that this process is not easy. And I'll never say that, this is easy. You just get on this, and that's why and I know I've said this in the other, some of this stuff in the other ones, but that's why we're not on. I was at the gym, and they got the TVs up there, and they had ads for the Atkins diet. I'm like, where'd they dig that out of the ground again for? They had some famous actor that was, well, I do the Atkins diet and I'm this kind of thing. I'm like, man, they should have left that in the grave. That Atkins thing is insanity. But that's on, and as insane as that is, there's a reason why that's on TV and Mucusless Diet Healing System is not, because that's not about putting real challenges on you, transforming society, transforming your mentality, and reconnecting with nature. So in a society that has become divorced from nature, it would follow that anything that is on the negative vibration, that's going to be acceptable. Put that on TV and everything's all well and good. But you start talking about something that's really going to totally upend the society and change everything. They don't want that out there. That's going to be suppressed as much as possible. But that's where the work that we're doing here, just the slow transitional work of one person at a time, hearing about this information, out of how, maybe 100 people hear about this, out of 100, maybe one person really gets serious into practicing the diet, and out of that, a group of those one folks, you might only have a couple that really understand the transition to a point where they can practice this thing and sustain for a long time. But I want to get those numbers up, because if you really practice the system, you're going to have a lot more success than what I'm seeing going on in the vegan community, raw foods, and all these different communities that have kind of sprung up around the plant-based healing arena. It's rough, and people are falling off, and that was something people wanted me to talk about, was the videos of people coming out, the ex-vegans and the ex-fruitarians and all this kind of stuff, where they're making these videos, or they're like, man, I felt good for a couple. And how often did I say that? For years. You go back to the oldest of the old videos on this channel, we're talking about the Mucusless diet, and I'm talking about how people that are too aggressive feel great for a little while, but sooner or later that they can't handle that level of intensity. And I'm seeing that with folks that are trying to do the raw foods and the all fruit and all that kind of stuff with no thought of transition, with no methodology. Just, I'm gonna be all raw, or I'm gonna be nothing but fruit, and they follow the different folks talking about it on YouTube and all that kind of thing, and try to compare themselves to what they see somebody talking about, and that's not it. Not for 15, 20, 30 years. That's not it, and that's what I'm talking about. Trying to finding ways to plateau. You want to plateau, and you want to do it someplace rational. And so I'm not talking about if you have really chronic issues. And I've always said if you have really chronic issues, then you should be either working with somebody if you can that knows. There's not a whole lot of us that really are experts in the Mucusless Diet Healing System way of transition, detoxification, and healing, and but there's a lot of the folks that's out there that more into the herbs and that kind of thing and the fasting and stuff. But whatever you do, if you got some serious issues, you got to reach out and really deal with these things. But my message tends to be more directed at folks that is just trying to live their lives, trying to learn how to incorporate this lifestyle and this information into a lifestyle so that it can be sustained and be dealt with for a long period of time. So anyway, one of the things that I want to do on the podcast is take the time to look at some new kind of news stories. And there is a dear friend of mine that's a reporter named Doc Dockery. He said that he would do some things. So I got him on the line. And so when we had the Immortality Pipeline, we used to have a segment that Doc was on called Bizarro World Headline News. And so he would just give us some news, read some different news stories, and it was really interesting. Doc Dockery is an excellent reporter. He's just one of the greatest journalists that's out here. That I'm telling you, this guy is the bee's knees, as they might, somebody, I don't know who would say that. Somebody would say that 50 years ago. So let's turn it over to Doc Dockery. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Doc Dockery and Bizarro World Headline News. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Doc Dockery, and you are now listening to Bizarro World Headline News. Fruit with the odor of onions in a gym sock spark an evacuation of a university library. Firefighters in Australia were called to the University of Canberra library after a strong smell of gas was reported, with hundreds of students leaving the building within minutes so a thorough search could take place. After an hour, the source of the foul odor was discovered: a durian fruit, which had been left in a bin near an air vent on the second floor. The powerful pong has prompted hotels and public transport systems across Asia to ban durians altogether. And in a post on a Facebook page for the library, it says that we are open. The lingering gas-like smell in the building is completely safe. Someone left a durian fruit on one of our bins, which is very sneaky indeed. A boy, a chicken sandwich, and a federal case over dinner at Colonial Williamsburg. Should a child with severe gluten allergy be allowed to bring a homemade meal into a Colonial Williamsburg restaurant on a school field trip? A federal appeals court Friday ruled against the tavern that refused to let the child eat his own food at its site. But one judge disagreed, saying that the decisions would force restaurants throughout Maryland, Virginia, and the Carolinas to give up control over their most valuable asset, the food that they serve. Quote, "This is a terrible rule," said Judge J. Harvey, or should I say the most honorable Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson III. The case was brought by an 11-year-old boy from Maryland who tried to bring his gluten-free chicken sandwich into the Shields Tavern during a school trip in May 2017. He and about 60 classmates planned to have dinner at the tavern, which offers a traditional 18th century experience with actors and musicians. But the restaurant, owned and operated by Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, refused the boy's request and offered instead to prepare a gluten-free meal for him. And the boy turned it down because he didn't trust the restaurant to safely prepare his food, as the court filing states. In response to the ruling, the boy, now 12, and a history buff, said in an interview Friday that he hopes his case will ensure that nobody has to go through what I have gone through. And if I could comment on this, I think that this is a national tragedy, ladies and gentlemen, that in such an important place as Colonial Williamsburg, where we talk about make America great again. I mean, this was when America was great, and there's so much education, there's so much learning that we can glean from a place like Colonial Williamsburg. And so for this young man to be so disrespectful, to think the temerity that he could bring his own gluten-free chicken sandwich to this historically accurate place. This is why things are so terrible right now in this country. That I just cannot believe it. We need more places like this. We need more places like Colonial Williamsburg here in the United States to really understand the greatness of this place. And it just boggles my mind that young child would be so disrespectful. In conclusion, I want to thank you. I'm going to turn this back over to Professor Spira here, and this has been Doc Dockery coming back at you with Bizarro World Headline News. Well, thank you so much, Doc Dockery, man. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I had the chance to just get some of that excellent reporting from one of the best journalists on the planet, Mr. Doc Dockery. So I thank you for that enlightening piece on something that's so important. You know, to preserve our history. You know, we gotta preserve our history. So yeah, so that's that. And what else? So there was one other news story that I wanted to talk about that's not humorous or funny at all, and make some connections that the average person does not make, and even the plant-based people. I very rarely hear anybody make this connection, and it's such a simple connection, that the food we eat affects our behavior. Now, there's plenty of studies that's out there. A lot of public schools have started to go plant-based in different ways and this kind of stuff. And a lot of teachers and administrators notice, hey, the children are not as crazy and rambunctious. I don't have all of these studies to cite for you at the moment, but you can look them up because they're out there. And like playing the studies game, you can, I'm sure, find opposing studies to any study that you use as source. You can always find an opposing studies. That's one reason why that approach, when people say, well, it's non-scientific, you gotta, that they're missing an entire lacuna, as we would say. There's just this big puzzle piece that's gone. That's why that type of thing is not going to work to study in that type of manner. You have to do some intensive study if you want to get into that whole thing. But that's out there for anybody that's into that. So that's some evidence. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence of people that notice how they act that's different when they get off of eating dead animal flesh or clean their diet up, or even if they eat less of it. There are changes in their behavior. And now some people will say, well, and they'll look at people that didn't transition and are trying to be all fruit, and they'll say, well, that person so-and-so ate nothing but fruit for a couple months, and then they had a nervous breakdown or such and such, or they did such and such. I'm not talking about that, because as soon as you got someone that has totally ignored the transition methodology, you are not someone I am talking about, because your behavior is not going to be based on that food alone. It's based on all of those worms and pus and mucus and decades old feces stones and all of that buildup and waste from years ago. That's going to express itself. But I'm talking about people that have been doing this kind of lifestyle for long periods of time, or you have a family that has generations, so it has children and children's children that have been going down this path. You're not going to see the kind of chaos that we see in this society right now. So I want to take a look at the current event, which happens all the time. Unfortunately, there's mass shootings in the United States constantly. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the political debates, because the average debate is on the guns and constitutional rights and all that kind of stuff. I'm asking one question and one question only. What was this shooter eating? That's it. That's the only question that is of any consequence. What was this guy eating? I can tell you what he was eating. He was eating pus and mucus-forming foods. And until we can get to that, until we can understand that piece, then we are going to be we're going to be really blind and out here in just total ignorance. And that's where a lot of us are. Focused on the wrong thing, focused on the root of the problem. The root of the problem is what folks is putting in their mouth, and getting so divorced from nature that we act in ways that are unbecoming of a being that wants to be called human. But we're far from that. So let's watch a little clip of this story. So this guy, Dwayne Craddock, he was a longtime Virginia Beach employee, identified as the shooter, killed 12 people yesterday in a city building.
I come home and I go farther and I'm like, oh, there's a crime scene tape. So I'm thinking it's someone over there, just because my first instincts, I'm not thinking it's the guy above us.
Yeah.
Not thinking that at all. And then one of the reporters comes in and is like, do you know a Dwayne? I'm like, yeah, he lives above us.
We know he's very routine guy. Could probably pick up on his routine pretty easily, but had very few encounters with him. My dad spoke with him when we first moved in, and other than that, just general encounters, good morning, have a great day, as you're walking or leaving. I mean, I always felt like I was in a safe neighborhood, so I never felt
here.
It's very quiet. Never felt, we always would jokingly say oh, Dwayne's got cameras at his house, so if anybody ever was to come around, we'd be fine, not knowing that the person that could have come around would be him, kind of thing. But I mean, it's never felt fearful or anything like that.
I work for the city, and one of my bosses was like, hey, one of our participants' dads might be late because he works around that area.
And so there's just talking a little bit about the dude. There was a video that I'd had queued up before that I thought where they were actually at the scene. This is one example, one account of something that happens over and over and over again. And, you know, people focus their attention all of a sudden like, okay, this is something that made national news. There's people who are getting shot and brutalized and all of that every day all over the world and all kinds of different nooks and crannies. And I did a simple lookup of Chicago shooting, and here was a baby waved at suspect before they fatally shot the mother. I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of these stories of just senseless killing. Now, I'm not the first person to talk about or say like, okay, things are bad. What are we gonna do about them? But the answer, and I've challenged anybody, let's try that. We've tried everything else. We tried the political thing and the uprising, and we've done all those things before, over and over again. Study enough history, go far enough back. Plenty of political upheavals, the change of entire governments, the overthrow of governments, and the insertion of something new, that somebody else thought would be the utopia way. We've done this over and over and over again. And yet those are still the only solutions that I continue to hear. Is whether it's things from, right or left, or those false dichotomies that are created, various kinds of philosophies and all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, none of this is going to improve. None of this is going to change until the diet is dealt with, period. Then people say, because this makes people uncomfortable. And now I'm speaking from somebody that came from that. And I can talk about my own personal experiences of being in situations where I used to find myself in places where groups of us are like fighting with people and that kind of stuff. And that was gone. Once I got off of the heavy pus eating and a lot of the mucus eating, that was gone. The desire to be in those environments, the things that I used to think were fun about that type of environment was not fun anymore. Things that became fun, playing music, trying to become the best musician I can be, dealing with the Mucusless diet, studying, hanging out at the library, reading books. I mean, those things got so much more fun than, running around at clubs and bars and getting into, mischief or what, just that whole thing. That was out of there. So I've experienced it firsthand. But the way we got to think about it, or the way that I recommend that we think about it, is not everybody that gets drunk is a mean, nasty, dangerous drunk. And not everybody that smokes weed is mellow and cool. And not everybody that does any insert name of drug goes along with the stereotype of that drug. Every person's body reacts differently to the drug. So some people drink a bunch of alcohol, and I'd actually brought up I don't know if I still have it up here. I'd found an article, because I actually looked that up today. I looked up an article about the percentage of murders that occur that are based on people that are drunk, that are intoxicated. You know, how many people actually murder that are intoxicated, either drunk or something. Now, drinking by far is the thing that gets the most percentage points in terms of murder. But I would say way above being drunk from alcohol, what puts us in the mental space to even have a moment of that type of experience is the pus and mucus eating. Because it has to be. When you're doing something that's so unnatural, that's diametrically opposed from what we're supposed to be doing, what do you expect? Not peace, not harmony, not calm resolve, not working things out through a hug. No, that's not it. That's not gonna happen. And so you can't just tell people, because this is one of the problems, in PETA. You see them, it's like they're, and different people that, and vegans in general, they'll try to appeal to the moral sensibility of somebody, but you can't do it. That's not going to be it'll be effective for some people, but if you're dealing with someone that has an inability to feel empathy, what are you going to do? How are you going to get that person to feel something that they can't feel because they're blocked and they're obstructed? Vitality equals power minus obstruction. How are you going to do that? So our only chance is to appeal to, well, first and foremost, we have this information, so we got to worry about ourselves and our families, getting ourselves together first and foremost. So that's the most revolutionary thing you can do. Get yourself together. Working on this, this life, getting yourself together, your life. You got control over that. You got control over what you put in your body. So we have to start there. Then we start talking about how to transition the economic system, how to transition political systems, how to undo and deconstruct society as it is today. Then we can have that conversation. People always want to put the cart before the horse. They want to talk about how we can overthrow the government, or we can have a revolution, economic revolution, or uprising, or whatever. Like I said, that's happened again and again and again throughout history. But there hasn't been a permanent solution. And I propose that the dietary piece is what's necessary if we are to have a chance at a so-called civilization. If we're to have a chance of a rational, peaceful civilization, then we're going to have to, in some way, shape, or form, we're going to have to get it together physiologically. And this is the missing link. And so I look at the work that we're doing. It's the most revolutionary, most important work that is out here that we can be doing, because, and we don't even know the kind of impact that we have. I mean, just doing it, just transitioning properly. Because I'm not telling anybody to push yourself past what's, just where it's not comfortable, or where it's, where you're trying to be a 100% something. You don't never see us talk like that. Say, oh, you got to be 100% mucus free. Never said that. Or you got to be 100% raw, or we're fruit eating beings. We need to eat nothing but fruit. No. We have gotten so far off track that we need to take as long as it takes to get back on track. So we need to be able to sustain. We need to be able to hit these plateaus and really get to a point where we are truly transforming humanity through ourselves. And that is and that's really important. So I'm gonna take a look at the chat over here. Let's see what's going on. What's going on at the chat? Let's see. Let me share the chat. So we got Marshall Vid says very similar to Dr. Sebi's material. Well, my material is very similar to Professor Arnold Ehret. Now, Dr. Sebi said that Arnold Ehret is the only person that he agreed with. And I could bring that video up. If you look up a video, Dr. Sebi talks about Arnold Ehret. There's like a one clip, a minute 30-second clip, and where he talks about Arnold Ehret and how that was where he was getting inspiration for things that he was teaching. Now, when it comes to the herbs and all that kind of stuff, and he didn't talk about, that I know of, he didn't really get into talking about a lot of transition diet aspect of Ehret's work. You know, he was real into the herbs and that kind of stuff. You know, I talk about, Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System is the inspiration for what I do and what I live and what I talk about. Now, I study what other folks are doing, and I study different, I keep abreast of a lot of different people and all the different folks that's out here that claim to have something else that's important. I study it and I'll experiment with it. And I experiment sometimes with a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily talk about, and I gain a lot of information from that. And if I do something that I think will really help people that isn't against the Mucusless Diet Healing System or that doesn't associate with Ehret's work, I talk about it, or the things that I disagree with Ehret on. I've talked about those, and so it's not one of those kind of situations where you're just reading the book blindly and just believing everything is in there. As I don't teach that either. Now I have a e-course that we released, so you can find a link down below, where we really go through the Mucusless Diet Healing System as if it's a college course and give it its due respect and study and really just break things down and go over the information with a fine-tooth comb. And I made that because so few people were doing that, and I felt like that was a really important thing that was totally getting lost. Let's see. Jamie says, I tried to incorporate some cooked, and it's been hell for me coming from an all raw diet. I'm a runner, so I can feel the difference badly. Yeah, and that is something that folks go through if they're coming from having been 100% raw for a real long time, or doing one of the more aggressive kind of recommendations, protocols. Then they try to, they get to a point where they're not functioning the way that they want to be, and they like, okay, let me check out what Arnold Ehret has to say, and they'll say, okay, well, Ehret was saying it's not that cooked food is evil, it's how you use the cooked food to transition, and that there's a way to do it, a way to use cooked food to especially mucus-free cooked food, to keep the progress going, keep the cleansing happening to a certain extent. We haven't been able to implement any of the ideas. They murdered the union movement. Socialism has not been configured properly in the past and has been demonized by our fake fourth estate. So what I have to say about that is I'm saying that it wouldn't work. Configured, I mean, things have changed anyway since the writing of a lot of those, and I don't know who you study or which, you come out of, but I'm saying that until we get ourselves together physiologically, so if there is the concept of a people's movement, or a working class uprising that would rise up and overturn the current government system and then install something. So even if what you're talking about was installed and properly, the people that are at the top of that situation are still going to be pus and mucus eaters. And it might be 2 years, it might be 10 years, it might be 20 years, that whatever they put together is going to fall apart because the physiological piece is not put together. As long as so it doesn't matter who you put as the leader, as a president or a group of people or representatives or whatever it is, you're not going to have the kind of society that we envision, that we can see, and that people have for millennia talked about, the peaceful, and what's been talked about in ancient texts, the myths of the golden age, the so-called golden age of humanity. There's none of that is going to happen unless we get ourselves together physiologically. And but yeah, I firmly believe, you take any of the worst, and I'm talking about the worst stuff that's out here, because we got, there's slavery, a lot of, and many of you probably know, slavery exists today. Huge amount of slavery in the world. The sex trafficking of children, sex trafficking of anybody. All of these things that are just abominations that people aren't talking about enough. But there's a reason. The United States of ignorance. I'm in the States, and so that's what it's all about. Is what can I do to stimulate my consciousness and divert my attention away from something that might make me feel not great emotionally at the moment? How can I ignore? What can I drink? What can I eat? Where can I go? What can I do to ignore the mass shooting? What can I do to ignore the rape? What can I do to ignore the invasion of other peoples and the killing of defenseless women and children by our government? What can I do? Let me ignore that. Let me go to the football game. Let me just enjoy that. Let me watch one of these news shows with these talking heads and these political hacks. Let me watch that, and I'll feel informed. I will feel like I'm a good citizen because I know the issues. I watch the news. I know what's going on. They have created a total situation in society of diversion, the likes of which we've never seen in history. It's just unprecedented in terms of the places that you can go. Now we got the internet, the places you can go on the internet. You don't have to experience anything real if you don't want to. Virtual reality. You can be totally virtual, totally disconnected from nature. Take somebody and tell them, okay, turn your phone off. I was talking the other day. It was like, I'm gonna go out in the woods and with no electricity, go out there for 48 hours, 72 hours, and at least get in touch with something natural, something that you get away from all this electricity, all this stuff. But the majority of people aren't thinking like that. You try to go and some 16-year-old and be like, okay, no phone for several days. We're going to go out in the woods and we're just going to sit and meditate and talk about stars and breathe, focus on our breath, and who's gonna do that? We're way too stimulated. But when you start to change the diet, then that's where you can gain control over some of that stimulation. So what else is going on? So I wanted to play a little bit of music for you here. This is something that I found. I'm in the process of creating a 24-hour radio station, web radio station, Mucus-free Life Radio. And what's going to be on that station is hours and hours of unreleased content that we made from the old radio shows. And there's all the music that we recorded that maybe we never released. I mean, we have hundreds of hours of stuff, of content. And for years, I've thought about, okay, what's the best way to put this stuff out? And just having a 24-hour stream that just constantly has this information going out there, I think is the best way to do that. Because what that does is, when you want to plug in, there's an energy to not being able to control the stream. YouTube, you kind of control, okay, what video I want to see, that kind of stuff. But with the stream, you have no clue what you're going to be listening to. When you tune in, we might be talking about something. There might be, who knows what was going to be on there, and we did a lot of different stuff on the radio show that was pretty, it was some out there kind of stuff, and then there's some, we just have fun. But I think that's the best way to put that out there. At one point, I thought about maybe releasing it as something that you could, kind of like an e-course or something, where you could pay a certain amount and then you would get access to all the different links, or not links, but all the different files from the old shows and stuff. Because I really do have, probably maybe 200 hours of stuff from the old shows. So just a lot of stuff that can definitely fill up, enough stuff to fill up a radio station without repeating stuff all the time. And then I'll be adding new stuff to it, and maybe add the podcast on there and stuff. So that's something that we definitely want to do, that I'm working on now. I'm going through all the old audio and kind of cleaning it up a little bit and just getting it ready. You got to get it the right file type and size and all that kind of stuff. But what I will do, though, this particular song, and I just came across it the other day, and I really like it. This is me and Brother Air play on this. We used to be in a band called the Afro-Rican Ensemble. And this is from a recording we did. This was kind of early in the band's years. This song is called Psychedelic Sally. And we got Mario Abney on trumpet, Eddie Bayard on saxophone. I'm on trombone now. The first solo is me. I'm playing my trombone through a guitar effects or pedal, so it sounds kind of like a synthesizer. Something's playing, but that's me on my trombone. Then Brother Air is I think he's on the drum set, and then Rolando's playing percussion. Brian Batchelor later on keyboard, and a couple other musicians. But so this is Psychedelic Sally. We're gonna have a little fun, a little music break. Then we'll take a break for a minute, and we will come back with some more discussion, and we'll close out the podcast.
Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out.
Do you ever wake up in the morning feeling bad? I mean really bad? Blowing your nose and coughing up green slime bad? What if I told you that the foods you eat are causing mucus to back up in your body? The good news is this waste can be eliminated naturally. Discover the simplest and most powerful natural lifestyle secret that has improved the lives of thousands. Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System, annotated, revised, and edited by Professor Spira, is a complete course for those who desire to take their health into their own hands. You will learn how to naturally get rid of that annoying stuffy nose, soothe your nasty cough, melt away unwanted body fat, prevent dangerous health issues, and heal yourself of painful illnesses. Where are my real brothers and sisters at? You think you're hard? You think you're a revolutionary? Then you got to be talking about health. Learning to control what you put into your mouth is the most revolutionary thing you can do. Check out the book that inspired Dr. Sebi, Lila Africa, and many others. Visit www.mucus-free-life.com/revised-mucusless-diet to get your copy today while supplies last.
Hi, my name is Kristen Oviedo, and I'm currently a stay-at-home mom. I take care of my son who's 2 years old. His name is Logan, and we live here in Houston, Texas. I was so excited when I found out that Professor Spira was going to be releasing an e-course for the Mucusless Diet Healing System. I actually bought it as a birthday gift to myself. The e-course goes through Arnold Ehret's book lesson by lesson. You get the reading materials with the audio files, and then Professor Spira teaches each lesson to you. He also gives you a quiz at the end to see how much you paid attention, and gives you additional readings, additional videos to watch. So you literally could spend hours on doing the e-course. And what I love about it is I can really do it on my time.
Hi, my name is Michael Adam Fathauer. I currently live just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My current profession is the commercial construction industry. I am currently enrolled with the e-course. I'm about halfway through. The beauty of the e-course is that you can work through it at your own pace. I would highly recommend the e-course because if you think you read the book, the Mucusless Diet Healing System, if you think you read it and grasped it, that's good. It does help to go through a study. Professor Spira has taken the e-course and he digests the information really well and makes a really fun, interactive platform for learning. So if you're a visual learner, he has visuals, videos, pictures. If you're an audible learner and you learn by listening, you can also listen.
My name is Autumn Queen, and I live in Stone Mountain, Georgia. The Mucusless Diet Healing System e-course is a combination of videos, quizzes, reading assignments that covers the whole entire book. It teaches you everything you thought you knew while reading it, but the e-course kind of amplifies it. It explains all of the little questions that I have. It was just explained to me in detail through the e-course, and it just everything made sense.
The e-course thoroughly covers all the concepts and the principles of the book, and what is so cool is Professor Spira has lived it. He lives by the same principles, and so when he talks he's teaching from experience. Some of the things I really like about the e-course are when I'm listening to Professor Spira teach each lesson, it really feels like I'm sitting in his classroom, and I really like his teaching style and his commentaries. The other thing is that the course allows you to do it at your own pace. You can do it on your own schedule. For me, it's really great. I can actually also do it on my phone.
Well, what I like about Professor Spira's PowerPoint presentations, for instance, his introduction to the Mucusless Diet Healing System, or about the fasting, is that it is broken down very simply, and it's technical, but it's also just very practical information. So it just helps to keep things clear and simple. I like things that are clear and simple and easy to understand, because our bodies overall all these complicated systems, they do work very simply if we take care of it, our bodies. So he helps to understand our bodies.
Because of the method he used in the e-course, there's things I thought I knew or things that I had forgotten. And now with the imagery and the interaction I have with the e-course, some of these basics cannot leave my memory. I just can't forget about them because I had a fun interaction with them, and I'm still working through the e-course now.
All right, we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me a chance to take a break for just a moment. And got a little bit of lemon water. Just drank a little bit of lemon water down. It was very good. So one thing that before we get too much further, I want to go over a couple things that's coming up. We got the Arid Day celebration finally starting to get it solidified. And well, first and foremost, I want to thank an anonymous benefactor, anonymous donor that is helping us out tremendously with this year's event. Gave us a very generous donation. I want to really thank. In fact, let me change the camera back. I want to thank you so much for what you did and your support. And I know you don't want us to say who we are or nothing. So I just want to thank you. And later this week, me and Brother Air are going to do a GoFundMe because we need to raise even more money because what we're trying to do this year is just take things to the next level. Last year we had the Arid Day celebration in my backyard, and we did everything that we could do within our power. But we have ambitious plans, idea of where we want to take it, and really want this to be a day that just really just honors Professor Arnold Ehret, and to have that kind of quality that is necessary to do that. In fact, right here, this is the proclamation that we created for last year's the first annual Arnold Ehret Day celebration. And so I'm really proud with what we did last year. And you can see some videos up there. If you do a Ehret Day celebration, you can see some stuff from that. So the second annual Professor Arnold Ehret Day celebration. And by the way, this was part of a newsletter. If you want to make sure that you get these Mucus-free Life newsletters, sign up. There's a link down below. You can go to the website here and download your free mucus-free recipes, menu planning guide, and top 10 mucus-free foods list, and get on board, and that will put you in the newsletter list. But here we got the date. Second annual Professor Arnold Ehret Day celebration is going to be Saturday, July 27th, and as well as Sunday, July 28th. But on the 27th, we're going to be at the Whetstone Park of Roses Shelter House, 3900 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. There's a number of folks that are coming in town. So I know if you are out of town, you got to get your plane ride together, your bus or your train, or however you're doing it. We got folks coming in internationally, and a lot of the people that came last year came from out of town, which made just feel great that folks want to come and hang with us and really celebrate the legacy of Professor Arnold Ehret. And so this year, this is a beautiful space. You might have caught a video of mine that's on my Facebook where I actually went here and I kind of walked around and showed folks around. It's on the Whetstone Park of Roses grounds. And so this is some photos that you're looking at here of the Park of Roses. That's a shelter house that we're going to be in. Shelter house from inside, we have a stage kind of set up there, and no PowerPoint presentation set up, and then music. We got live music happening. The Professor Spira and Brother Air Fire Music Project is what's going to be happening this year. And so yeah, Whetstone Parker Road. I mean, this is a beautiful spot. I mean, from when I first saw this place, I wanted to have an event here. And for years, we've kind of talked about doing like a Arnold Air Day celebration. And this was the place that I envisioned in the city I live in Columbus, that I would love to go. But it's incredibly difficult to get this shelter house. I mean, you usually have to apply for this a year in advance to get it. And it was one of those universe things where I just happened to call. You know, a couple months ago I'd called. It was already booked up. So I just had kind of put it out of my mind. And then last month, I just was like, okay, I was calling. I was even thinking about maybe having it on a Sunday, because maybe I could find a place. I was having a lot of trouble finding a place to have the event. And I called, and somebody had canceled. I just happened to ask, well, can you check to see what's on that Saturday? And they checked, and the shelter house was available. I was like, book it immediately. You know, got the credit card out here. Yeah, that's where we want. And so this is gonna be beautiful, and I just really looking forward to this event. But we got a lot of work to do in the interim, so we're still putting it together. So if you definitely know that you want to go, you want to get the best price on the ticket, sign up for the early bird ticket. There's a link down below on the YouTube, and if you sign up there, you'll be the first person to get access to the early bird tickets. There are going to be a limited number of early bird price tickets, and they'll be considerably cheaper than the regular price tickets. So you definitely want to get in on the early bird. And then overall, you want to get in because there is a limit. So I don't know I don't know how many people we're going to have. You know, my expectations, I just put it out there, and they say, you know, build it and they will come. You know, I'm happy with. I mean, we had like 40, over 40 people or more last year, and I expected 10. You know, I expected like 10 or 15 people will come out. You know, and that have made me happy. But I was ecstatic with the amount of people we had last year. So I'm not a good judge of that. And so I know that the building has a limit of a certain number, is like 100 and something, 175 people or something in that building. So, and we'll have to have a smaller, because some of that space will be have equipment and things like that. But so anyway, but yeah, you can check that out down below. Link to where you can get in on that if you want to participate this year. And and more details will be coming as far as the program. Part of what we're going to do later this week with raising money and also having sponsorship. So if you give enough or donate enough, and you happen to have a business or something that you want to promote that's in line with the values of Mucus-free Life, then you can be a sponsor of the event, and you could put up your logo for your for your company, and it creates goodwill amongst the community. I have over, just in my immediate social media network, there's over 60 something thousand people reach, and we'll be doing some other type of advertising and stuff, so it's going to reach out there. So if you wanted to become a sponsor, this would be a good way to get kind of align your company or your business with what we're trying to do and support us and get things out there. So more information about that's going to be coming, in fact, later this week, as I just wanted to go on ahead and make sure I said something about the Air Day celebration, because this is going to be it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to meet a lot of you that have already said you're coming, folks that I interact with a lot on social media and Facebook group and all that kind of stuff, but we don't get a chance to really hang out in person, so we're going to definitely do that. Sunday is going to be kind of informal, and that's going to be kind of the meet and greet day, where we'll make it up as we go along, as far as we'll pick some place to go and hang out, and I don't even say what we'll do. We're going to hang out, and but we're going to do something fun. So that is May. Well, no, not May. That's July 27th and 28th, Arnold Air Day celebration. And I'm looking forward to that. So we'll be wrapping things up here soon. Let me take a look at the chat one more time and see if there's any questions or anything that I should address. Let's see. Okay, well, there is a question from Marshall Vids about supplements that ask, and that is in the title, so let's cover that now. How to remove mucus from the body. There was a question on the floor that is about supplements. What supplements do you use to help eliminate mucus? Now, first, how do you define supplements? Supplement, we often use the term supplement to mean forms of concentrated chemicals that have been, sort of isolated and messed with, and there's usually are meant to have some kind of nutritional type of thing where you isolate some stuff or make some synthetic nutritional vitamins, minerals, whatever, and that's the supplement concept. Now, when I say we, many people in the mucusless diet community and the mucus-free community are not fans of any kind of supplementation in that type of supplementation. Now, some people view herbs as supplements. Now, I don't use the term to supplement when I'm talking about herbal formulas. Some people do. So I acknowledge that some people do, and they use that term and say supplements. We tend to not, because supplementation, there's a lot of people that have gotten rich off of supplementation, saying, okay, you need such and such, there's this deficiency here and there, here's some kind of chemical concoction here, and this will give you those things. So a lot of us, we're not into that. So we want to try to get everything that we need from the food, and our focus is often on elimination. So if we can eliminate all of the waste from our system, then the food that we do consume, we're going to be able to get everything out of it. The air that we do breathe, we're going to get everything that we're supposed to out of it. Right now, a lot of us are in a very encumbered state, and so we're not getting all of the we're breathing, but we're not utilizing oxygen to the fullest extent. We're not utilizing the fruit that we eat or the vegetables that we eat. It's not eliminating properly. So we say, first, let's focus on that. Let's focus on rectifying the dietary. What can we do with diet? Now, when you're talking about things for the bowels and elimination, we got some goodies for you there, because so there's the herbal. I already mentioned the herbs. Erit has a herbal formula. There's a lot of stomach and bowel formulas that were kind of inspired by Erit's that you can find, and so there's that route, the herbal route. And Erit talks about you can take the herbs and make them into teas, or do the different different methods. He kind of talks about that. And since I bring that up because we're talking about Mucusless Diet Healing System and that particular approach to these things. But when it comes to getting stuff out of your intestines, now you want to be looking at the lemon juice and distilled water enemas. That's something that we recommend highly to folks, especially you just getting started. Get that old, rotten, nasty stuff out of your intestines, and do so with an enema. Now, when somebody says, well, enemas are unnatural and you shouldn't do them, it's like, well, I mean, you do what you want to do. I don't force nothing on nobody. If you just want to do herbs and focus on that thing, or just focus on the foods, whatever. But a lot of people, when you're coming from a situation like I come from, where I used to eat 2 or 3 foot long in one sitting, I'd have 2 foot longs with chili and cheese and a cheeseburger and a root beer at the neighborhood root beer stand. And you got folks like me, you coming from that level of gluttony. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the enemas. I mean, I can say that just from my own personal experience. The lemon juice enemas helped me get all of that old poison that was making me crave the wrong foods, because I was still craving the meat. I was still craving all of that stuff. If I would have did what some of these guys recommend, to just become all raw or just eat a lot of fruit, I'd have been so messed up. As I see them getting messed up. I didn't do it like that. I transitioned. I did enemas. That flushed that stuff out of there. I did short-term fast. I didn't do real long fast in the beginning unless my body told me to do so. I tried to work the system as best as I could, and that's kind of a missing link. I can tell you, in terms of getting your bowels moving and removing the mucus from your body, practice the Mucusless Diet operative word healing system. Healing system. Get into the system. Study the system. What does the system consist of? And it's not complicated, but it's more than just eat fruit and smile, or eat fruit and pray and think love thoughts. I mean, it's deeper than that, yet it's not complicated. It's not too complicated. It's not that complicated, but it's not as simple as, well, just be mucus free or just whatever. But if you work the system, you systematically incorporate the enemas and the fasting properly, the transitional menus, the mucus lean menus, mucus-free menus, and you get all of that together, you're gonna clean that stuff out of your gut, the old stuff. You're gonna get your bowel movements happening regularly, like they should. And so that's my recommendation. When you ask about supplements, I'm saying, well, I'm not an authority on supplements, so it's not a good, I'm not gonna, I don't have much to say on that in terms of the way I define supplementation. If you want to get into some herbal formulas or stomach and bowel formulas or something, that's an option. But if you don't change your diet and you don't get on a transitional diet that consists of foods that eliminate well. See, one thing people often ask, well, what foods am I supposed to eat and what's mucus forming, not mucus forming? And I'm not preoccupied with mucus forming versus non-mucus forming. I want to eat things that eliminate. So if I'm eating something that's mucus free, but it's not eliminating properly, meaning it's not going through my intestines and helping me form good bowel movements, and if it's not eliminating well, if I notice that it's just sitting there, or it's leaving behind some kind of residue that shouldn't be in there, I don't want that either. So there's certain mucus-free foods that in my particular body don't eliminate well. So I don't eat those. So it's not a cut and dry, mucus-free, not mucus-free. This is about getting in tune with your body and trying to figure out what is it that your body needs for optimal elimination. And so you experiment with the different transitional menus and different regimens, and you find what works for you. You find where that groove is. Musicians, we like to use that word groove. You want to get in the groove of this. It should be, you're kind of grooving with it. And a lot of people don't understand that because they ain't, you got to feel this. Once you get into it, you clear out some of that stuff and you start feeling it. You want to get in the groove, get in that plateau point. Pretty sure no one else, I've not heard anybody else in the raw foods or community say you got to get in the groove in that manner. But you got to get in the groove. Find the groove. Find the rhythm. What's one of the things I recommend in the new document, that free menu planning, I start to get into some of that. How, if you're the type of person that needs to write everything out and plan everything, how you can take the Mucusless Diet Healing System book and do that and directly apply that. You want to, that's one way to do it. And so get into the book, study this material. If you really, really want to get this information happening, check out the e-course. And but just study and then practice, and then go on about your life. This shouldn't consume your life and every little thing you do. I got videos where I talk about finding your passion, and it shouldn't be, and I'm not talking about diet passion, finding what is it that excites you when you get up in the morning. There should be something in your life that you're excited about to do. And I'm saying other than diet. And so I'm excited about this right here. This is my trombone. So that's, I want to be playing that. Right when I get done with this, I'm about to pick that trombone up and I'm going to have me a little session. So that's what I'm into, studying music, studying, all this, we talk diet, and I could just as easily and would even probably enjoy more talking about music. I can't, because you would all tune out. Because I've tried that before. I start talking about music in a way that doesn't directly connect with Mucus diet stuff, and you tune out, or folks tune out. And so, but whatever it is for you, something that you're passionate about, the goal should be to try and situate yourself in such a way where what you're doing, in the way that you make money or the way that you operate in the world, you're doing something that you're passionate about. Because once you are able to do some things that you're passionate about, then you will be able to practice the diet easier. It makes the diet so much easier to do. It's easier to fast when you're consumed with something that you love to do. It makes fasting easy. It makes you're not hungry because you're not thinking about food. So that's a lesson that I hope that people take to heart, where I'm saying that like, food is not something that you should be obsessing about. You want to study and you want to get into it, and you want to create a situation. Really, if you study properly, you get to a point where you don't have to think about it. And that's why I say that this is like an art form. You get to a point where you have the fundamentals down. You have all of those kind of things. Once you've mastered the fundamentals and you understand that, you have that in your mind permanently, and your body from doing it for a certain period of time, then it's second nature. And that's what that's what you want. You want this to become second nature. And so I'll give you an example. So I'm not really warmed up, but so I'll show you. So doing certain things on the trombone, it's just second nature. And if I was to ask you to do what I'm just about to do, if I was to ask you to do this, and say, you don't have to practice, you don't have to transition, just pick up the instrument, be intuitive, feel it, and you can do what I'm doing. So, okay, let's see. So that wasn't as good as it would be if I was warmed up properly. But I do that as an example, not to be like, music. I'm saying that it took me years to be able to do that. It took me years of playing. I mean, you want to know what it's like. You listen to a good high level. I mean, I've been around some of the best musicians on the planet, and the best trumpet guys and trombones and guys that can do all this stuff. You want to know what they do and what they've done for hours and hours and hours since they were young playing their instrument? They might do long tones for an hour, 2 hours, for days or months, depends on what they're working on. And the point is that you don't learn how to play an instrument overnight with no study, no training, just the prince. I tell you the principles. Like, okay, well, you make just make a good embouchure and hold it like this, and just breathe in properly and blow out. It doesn't work like that. You have to learn this and take the time to practice. See, people don't want to practice. People don't want to practice. They want to just jump in, and they see someone that's like a master of fasting, like Brother Air, or somebody else do whatever they do, and they're promoting. There's a lot of people, doing the 40-day water fast and all that kind of stuff, and they'll promote that. And then people that have not transitioned, not studied, not practiced, they will then try to replicate what they saw somebody do without replicating or trying to understand what they did for years before they got to that point, before they did whatever they did. And so, practice is key. So thank you for indulging me in that, and I hope that example made some bit of sense. But that's so important, is understanding that this has to be practiced. Mucusless Diet Healing System has to be practiced to be understood. You can conceptualize it to a certain extent, but the conceptualization should only be used for the benefit of practice. So you get it in your mind, you understand the principles logically, the different things that you can kind of do, you can organize your day, but then you have to practice, you have to do it and evaluate, look at what you're doing and analyze how's the food, is going through and eliminating. You look at all these different things. Conceptualizing can help you understand, different things that when you go through a rough patch, it doesn't feel good. And you're like, what is that? And if you've studied the book, and then that's where you understand, like, oh, okay, well, maybe I might be eliminating something really old, some old if you took medicines and all that kind of stuff, all of that's going to have to come out sooner or later. The residue of that was not able to leave the body. And so that makes this process a real challenge sometimes. So let's see, any other comments before I'm going to be wrapping things up here soon. And there's Nivak. Yeah, hit the like button, y'all. Yes, I like that. Thank you. Indeed. Thank you, Professor Spira has been hugely helpful. You are quite welcome. Alan says, what does Eric say about removing parasites? Dealing with severe parasitic infection, is diet and fasting by itself enough? Well, I think when he brings up parasites and worms and all that kind of stuff, he does it in the context of just how filthy humans are. And again, the system and enemas. So enemas, Eric didn't recommend lemon juice enemas, he recommended water enemas. If there's anything that we've done that's kind of taken that to the next level, is if you add the lemon juice in there to the enema. But you got to have you can't do that, one of those things by itself. So diet by itself might not get it done. Fasting by itself might not get it done. The enemas without changing your diet is definitely not going to get it done. But when you systematically combine diet with the enemas, with the short-term fasting, rational fasting, you put all those things together systematically, and you're going to put yourself in a position to permanently eliminate that stuff. If you got the worms or whatever you got going on in there, you're going to eliminate it. And let's see, can you speak about transitioning off of fats versus cooked starches first? Is it possible to detoxify the body eating an avocado per day? Yeah, so I'm not people think I'm hardcore about fats and stuff when I'm actually not. The reason that people think I'm hardcore about that is just because I simply state that fats are not optimal for humans, and to be eating large quantities of it for the rest of our lives is not going to work. But as a transitional tool, I'm not against using avocados. I use them myself. I'm not against using nuts nuts and seeds combined with raisins. Or if you're into the sprouting and soaked stuff, then you can be into the soaked nuts and seeds. There's that element. Again, the key there is elimination. So the folks that are really into the enzyme theories that are soaking the nuts and the seeds, their reasoning for that approach, it comes down to elimination. That if you prepare it properly, it's still a preparation process. So you might not be cooking it, but it's a preparation process of a mucus. What would be something that ultimately would not be edible. You soak it properly and drain the water, and you do all that kind of stuff, and you get something that you can eat that may or may not eliminate well for you. That's where you have to test those things out. But ultimately, if you are again dealing with the transition, don't get held up on, if you're dealing with an avocado, I'd rather you have, avocado with a salad, on a salad, or make like an avocado dressing or something. I'd rather see that than eating the pork chop leg, or something. So all these things are gradations. The question is, where do you want to take it? What do you need physiologically? Where do you need to go with your transition to take things to the next level? And that is the key there. And let's see, based on your experience, how much toxic buildup is removed from each day of fasting? I heard 1 day water fast removes 1 year of toxic accumulations. I would not agree with that at all. That's that's very hard to quantify. People can say those things and just make stuff up. It's not really quantifiable. It's going to be different for each person. Each person's background is totally different. What people ate growing up is different. So we're not going to be able to quantify that type of thing, how much toxic, and we shouldn't be thinking like that, in my opinion. The focus on trying to quantify things, that's the problem of the medical establishment and some of the homeopathic kind of things. This preoccupation with the analyzing things and counting everything and measuring everything is about getting into the system. Get into the groove of the system, and all of those things are going to be taken care of in terms of eliminating toxic waste at the rate that your body can handle it. Because you don't want to eliminate this stuff too fast. And that's one topic that Eric does a good job in the Mucusless Diet Healing System of covering, is you don't want to eliminate stuff too quick. If it depending on how toxic you are, how many drugs did you take in your life, or how much concentrated concentrated chemicals did you put in your body, or you live somewhere that has extra bad pollution, or all these different factors that you kind of keep in mind. And so I'm about transition and putting things into perspective. To me, to put things into perspective, one thing you can do, if you don't have to do this if you can't, but if you're having trouble or you're getting down on yourself because you're watching some video of a raw food guru or somebody that's talking about all this great things that they did and all that kind of stuff, you got to put things back into perspective, which is, if you're just doing mucus lean, and you might not be at two meals or 3 meals. Maybe you have more than that. You're doing the best that you can. The best that you can is going to be better than these guys. And I did there's so many channels and stuff. I typed in vomit alert, and there's all these guys that force themselves to eat stuff, and it's not just a few. I mean, there's a ton of this kind of stuff on here, and it's got millions of views. This guy that whatever he vomited, whatever, I don't know what that is, but that's got 1.2 million views. So this is, these guys bathing in spaghetti. So this is the consciousness. See, one of my goals in life, and when I do these videos, is to try and peel back the layers of the ridiculousness of this society, and to show how the foundation of that ridiculousness is pus and mucus based reality and culture. This isn't gonna be something happening in a halfway rational type of situations, so when we start talking about avocados and nuts and seeds and fats and all that kind of stuff, my thing is, let's put this into perspective. We're on the transition. If you're dealing with avocados for a period of time, you deal with that. Brother Air ate peanut butter and jelly on toast for 4 years straight, 10 years into practicing the Mucusless Diet Healing System. So it's not raw, it's fats, it's combining things that my body can't handle, that type of combination. Years ago, I tried that in the beginning of my transition with the peanut butter and jelly on toast, and that made me very sick. So I don't recommend that to anybody, but I'm putting that into perspective of before he did the 8.5 month long fast and the 40-day dry fast and all that stuff. Before he got to any of that, he spent years transitioning using the principles of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. So my message is, don't be hard on yourself. Don't be too strict in the beginning. Find a groove. Find what works for you. And if you need to understand if you need to put things into perspective, then you have to, find out with our guys here, vomiting and spaghetti, bathing in spaghetti. All right, I'm sorry. I need to get off of that. Just put that into perspective. This pus and mucus, 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 pus and it's never ending, because of that is the society we're in. Pus and mucus, pus and mucus. That's why these folks are doing this. That's why this seems fun. This isn't fun to somebody that's not eating pus and mucus. This doesn't get views by people that's not into pus and mucus. This is what I'm talking about. Pus and mucus based society, pus and mucus based world. I can't put in something and see a bunch of people. If I put in transition diet, all of my videos come up, and maybe a couple other people's videos, or we talk about something that's rational. If I was to put in fasting, it would be a bunch of extremist stuff that comes up. Maybe a couple of my videos would come up, but it'll be a lot of videos of people talking about their 40-day or 50-day water fast or this or that. Eric never recommended any of that. He recommended short-term juice fasting, 3 to 4 days or 3 to 5 days or so and so forth, until you understand and get intimate with your body. So we got work to do. I mean, if there's any message I want you to take from this, is to understand this is where we're coming from. So even if you didn't do this kind of stuff, and you were eating pus and mucus, we're all came from being a part of this, and it's gonna take some time. So it's gonna take some time. So be gentle with yourself, be cool with yourself, and really practice the system. Let's see. I played trumpet for many years. I still felt like I didn't have it under control. Getting help is really important. Yeah, indeed. I mean, that's where the education, working with somebody that's a great teacher or a master of the art form that can give you the pointers and kind of help you, point you in the right direction. Say, okay, practice this. Put your time into this. That is very, very useful. Let's see. Brandon says, would love to see you do a video on jazz harmony in contemporary hip hop. I absolutely love artists like Flying Lotus and Thundercat. Okay, yeah. That'd be interesting. I should get one of my lectures out because I taught Introduction to Jazz last year, and I didn't get really into the harmonies and things, but I showed the lineage of the hip hop and how jazz hop, or jazz that went into hip hop, and really you go all the way back to the Last Poets, Gil Scott-Heron, and that tradition. Originally they were almost going to call hip hop like jazz hop, because it comes out of the jazz tradition. I mean, you go back far enough before they took the drummers out of it and that kind of stuff. The origin of it is coming out of it. Then you can go way further back. You can go back to the early R&B guys and Louis Jordan and guys that are kind of rapping, back to the 20s with jazz poetry, and then you can go on back to Africa with the griots and that tradition, the Jolly tradition, which they were basically rappers of that of that type of tradition. And so, but yeah, you get me into that. But you see, Alan said, should we exercise vigorously while fasting, or is staying still and resting important? So Eric recommends, generally speaking, I mean, it depends. As a lot of these things, it depends. If you're starting on this path, you want to rest probably and be calm, but light exercise or stretching, movement, getting the blood to move, that's good. And so, Eric has some exercises, which we have video of demonstration of those exercises that you can find on the YouTube channel, stuff like that. I generally don't recommend vigorous exercise for folks that's fasting, because that's a time, you want all that energy to go into the cleansing process. It's the whole point, really, of certain type of fasting. It depends on what type of fasting and your reason and why you're doing it. But once you get into, if you're fasting like Brother Air or something, then it's different. There's a different type of situation. But as far as vigorous exercise during fasting, I would say no. That's not, unless you're a very advanced faster, that is not something that I would really recommend. What parameters do you analyze to monitor progress, iridology, blood pressure, etc.? So I really look at elimination. So I study bowel, every bowel movement. I take a look and see what's going on. The urine. Now I'm not obsessed with if sediment, I can tell if the kidneys, you can tell if there's sediment in it. But if it's not as much as you think it should be or something, don't get weirded out. There's a lot of people that get sidetracked because they're thinking like, oh, there's not enough sediment in my urine. And they get obsessed about that. So that's not it. So you can look at that. Eric recommends the looking at the tongue, as the mirror. Magic mirror, as Eric called it. If you look at the tongue, you fast a couple days and then you scrape your tongue off and then wait a little bit, and you'll see the mucus content that kind of comes to the surface. And Eric's observation was that if you get that kind of mucus buildup on the tongue, that tongue is connected all the way down your GI tract down to your anus, and that's given you a perspective of if you haven't been eating mucus for a couple days and you've cleared out your colon and you're still getting all this mucus secretion on your tongue, then it's just giving you a perspective of where you're at physiologically. And as Eric says, don't try to fast until your tongue is clean. You work the system. Juices versus smoothies. Are smoothies always better than juices due to the fiber that's included? Most people today juice are most beneficial because it's less digestive energy being wasted. So I'm not a huge smoothie person. I've been getting into smoothies a little bit more in recent years, but I've never been someone that, and when I do smoothies, I don't do vegetable smoothies. If I'm gonna do vegetable stuff, that's gonna be vegetable juice. I don't do vegetable smoothies, but I do fruit smoothies if I'm gonna do that kind of like a smoothie thing. But they're both tools that can be used for different purposes. And so I wouldn't say that one is not that one is better than the other. It's what do you need? What tool do you need? Do you need some fresh juice? Is that going to be good for you at that moment? Do you need a smoothie? Now, I don't equate the two as being the same thing, as some people say, well, I juiced it in my, in my high blender kind of thing. I'm like, there's juicer and there's blending, but I don't look at them in the same light, because they have different things you can get out of them as goals, or as tools. I mean, let's see. I hear sweet potatoes and are almost mucusless. Can you recommend the next best, least mucus-forming potato? Red potato, Idaho potato. What those garnet ones? There's ones that are red, but they're a little white. What's the name of those? I mean, I haven't even used them that much, but yeah, as far as the potatoes, I mean, I kind of just stick to the sweet potatoes. You could experiment with some of the other potatoes to see yourself, but I really just stick with the sweet potatoes if I'm in that type of realm. Now, there's some people that practice a mucusless diet that do use white potatoes. I've tended to recommend to people, if at all possible, to just stick to the sweet potatoes and not really get into a lot of the white potatoes, because they can start to clog things over time. They can be addictive, and so that's that. Our baked potatoes better than steamed. My opinion, yes. I always bake sweet potatoes. Steamed is I never did a whole lot of steamed potatoes. You can do it. Boiled, I'm not into that at all. Boiling is, I think, you boil out too many of the minerals where it's not gonna eliminate properly. Let's see here. Love to see you talking about music. Yeah. So I say, how much should we pay attention to kidney filtration, aka mucus in the urine? Dr. Morris said it's essential to see this. So it's important to see it, and Eric might be one of the first people that I've seen to write about it. I found those quotes in the Mucusless Diet book where he's really one of the first people that said what Dr. Morris and other people would say about observing that when you fast for a couple days, you're starting the elimination process, you're going to get a lot of this waste start to come out in your urine, because you're going to be eliminating through your urine, through your skin, and through your feces. So you have the avenues of elimination, and you're going to start seeing things all over the place. And so skin, I'm a kind of a big skin person, so I tend to analyze. I analyze skin. Like I kind of look at. I observe my own in terms of elimination, and I can tell if I'm going through something, and I see it in my skin. If I'm looking at somebody else, I can kind of, do the facial reading. That's something that, because I'm not big into iridology, I can basically, when I'm working with somebody one-on-one and I send out a questionnaire, then my questionnaire is very similar to Eric's, but basically I want to know what you ate over the years, what kind of symptoms do you have. So not just, okay, I was diagnosed with such and such. What are the symptoms that you actually experience? And what are you eating right now? And so and if I get that information, and then I can just see someone's face, or just see, you can kind of get a sense of what's happening in terms of inside sometimes. Checking out the skin. It's an art. It's not a science. I'm not saying I'm not giving that as like, this is how you have to, if you look at somebody's face, you can tell. No, not all the time. There's some people that have beautiful, super duper beautiful skin, but their insides are nasty, and so it's not reflect. So that's not a science. But oftentimes, you can kind of look at someone and get a sense of what they might be going through, but yeah, there's some things to think about. My main thing with the urine was just don't get obsessed, because I've worked with some people where they've gotten so concerned and obsessed where the kidneys hadn't started filtering properly yet, and they were getting kind of scared and that kind of thing. And I'm like, that's not healthy. That's not good. That's not where it's at. Focus on the system. As long as you're focusing on the system, your body is going to start to work these things out, depending on where you're coming from, physiologically. Maximum detoxification speed. Would it be best to eat only one type of fruit for several days, or would you alternate different fruit mono meals? Can tender greens ever speed up detox, or are veggies always to be used for slow detox? So now we're getting into the nuts and bolts of the art of the system and the art of transition, and once you start to get into those things, you kind of have to answer that for yourself, for your own body physiologically. I can give you the generally speaking, the vegetables slow elimination down a little bit, but they are more for the mechanical elimination. So with the combined properly, if you put together some broom salads and things like that, you're going to be able to broom out the intestines with the vegetables, and that's important. So the way the system works, just generally, is fruits and fasting, or some kind of food restriction, allows the body to start to squeeze out and eliminate some of the toxic waste that is there. Then you bring the vegetables in at some point, and even the vegetable juices kind of do it on a blood level, but you bring the vegetables in, and they're going to help push through some of that toxic waste that has just been eliminated or brought to the surface from dealing with the fruit. So that's the systematic nature. You deal with the fruit and the vegetables and the fasting and the enemas and all of those different elements. And the art of the system is learning how to line all of these things up properly so that you can get the best result. And I'll answer one more question here. What's the maximum number of lemons we can use per enema without damaging the intestinal lining? So I recommend, just when you're starting off, just start off with a couple lemons until you get used to it and you know what is going on. As far as a maximum amount, we really don't have a maximum amount, because people like me and Brother Air have experimented with entire enema bags filled with nothing but just lemon juice. Now, I'm not recommending anybody do that, but I can say that it doesn't damage the lining of the intestines to do that. But before you would do something like that, you had to, be a little more advanced, to really be, have the pioneering spirit. So that's not something that I recommend at all. But to give that perspective, that's not something that I found that's going to harm you. It's mainly, the thing is, again, transition. Just even if you start off with the juice of one or two lemons, then you start to build it up. Like with me, with the organic lemons, I'll wash it good and then put the whole lemon in there in the centrifuge juicer with the rind and all, and then that makes it more potent. Brother Air, he still just uses the good old-fashioned citrus juicer. So those are all considerations, things that you can get into over time as you go through this process and really get yourself into a position of understanding what this is like, to get into this lifestyle, practice the diet, and exist. Like I said, get in the groove. You really want to get into the groove of the system. And so I'm gonna have to. So I need to go. So, all right, so I'll do one more question. So Alan, this is the last question, and then next time we can pick it up. You say, to remove the modern pharmaceutical poisons, are any changes to the system necessary? Should we add activated charcoal, bentonite clay, psyllium husk, all that kind of stuff? So I didn't use any of those things for years and years. Brother Ayers never used any of that stuff. Now I started studying it and using it. Well, I'm using it enough to learn what it did and what it was. Maybe around 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, I started where I would do a few of those different things and kind of branch out from Eric's methods and experiment with. I think I did the Dr. Morris's GI broom kind of stuff and all that, those kind of things. And I found that as a tool, sometimes those things can be useful, but they should never be, in my opinion, a sort of a route that you always go back to, or something that where you're putting so much focus and energy on, again, the supplements, these added things. Instead of the term supplement, actually what I use in some of my writing is ancillary therapies, additional therapies that you want to have be in concert with the Mucusless diet to kind of come together. But you can experiment with some of those kind of things. Psyllium husk is part of Eric's herbal GI broom formula, the so-called interclean formula, and most of formulas that you get GI, a lot of them have psyllium husk in it, whether you get the Dr. Morris or whoever you get, or something like it. And there's ones of different potency. Eric was against things that were harsh purgatives, so I'd experimented a couple times, like with the saltwater flush kind of stuff. I'm not impressed with that. I know there's some people that swear by that kind of stuff. I do not recommend that. As far as those things go, see, there's nothing that's a shortcut kind of quick fix. So you might be able to use some of those things and eliminate some stuff here and there, but ultimately you really just want to get into the system and let the system play out, get in the groove of the system. And now if Brother Air was here, he would be he's not a fan of any of that, the bentonite clay kind of thing. I mean, he would just be like, nah, this is not it at all. Just deal with your enemas, deal with the transition. Like I said, I've gotten into some of that and just found that in the long term, it's very limiting and it's sometimes questionable results. And so I just found that when it comes to that type of thing, you can't really beat the lemon juice enemas systematically applied with the Mucusless diet in the proper manner. That is really the way to go. So this has it's been a pleasure. We started off a little rocky with some technical glitches and issues, but we think we finally got it rolling here. I hooked it up in a different way going live, and it seems to have worked. So we will see. We'll see how this recorded. If this recorded okay. If it did record okay, then I will be taking the audio from this and submitting it to the various podcasting platforms, and that'll be a first for me, putting it out there. So if you're somebody that is into podcasting or you see any of these things once we release that, I would certainly appreciate you sharing the link, putting it out there, and sharing this video, sharing the content, getting people excited about reading the book and helping them with that information. That is just so important to just circulate the information. That's for me. I feel like that's the job I try to do, is just circulate the information, but I can't do it alone. I need help to push it out there further, to get it further out there. But anyway, this has been fun. I hope that you've gotten something from this and enjoy this. And we're gonna work on this format. I'm gonna try to get this down so that they're not as long. We'll get the format down and figure out what works, what doesn't, and kind of play with that a little bit. But like I said, next week we're gonna have Brother Air, interview with Brother Air. We'll also be talking more about the Arnold Air Day celebration. We'll talk about some other things that are happening, getting into the summer. A lot of music is coming up. We'll be playing a lot of music. So it is time to have some fun. We are mucus free. So until next time, peace, love, and breath.
We are mucus free. 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 Mucus-free.